Hi there. In this video, we're going to look at what the supply chain is and its different components. So if that sounds interesting enough for you to watch this video, then let's get started. So the first thing I want to look at is what actually is the supply chain. So the supply chain is simply the network of all the individuals, organizations, resources, activities, and technology involved in creating and delivering a product or service to the customers. So it basically encompasses all the steps that a product goes through from the very beginning, which is the raw materials stage, all the way to the very end, which is the delivery of the product to the customer. So it includes everything in between, such as manufacturing, assembly, packaging, quality control, warehousing, inventory management, transportation, and logistics, and so on. The supply chain also includes all the business processes that are involved in making sure that the product is available for the customer when they need it. This can include things like demand forecasting, production planning, sourcing and procurement, and so on. So essentially, the supply chain is all about creating and delivering the product to the customer in the most efficient and effective way possible. Now, the next thing I want to look at is what are the different components of the supply chain. And for that, I have come up with a list of 9 different components that I am going to talk about right now. The first component of the supply chain is raw materials. Now, this includes all the basic materials that are used to create the final product. For example, if we are talking about a car, then the raw materials would include things like steel, rubber, glass, and so on. The second component of the supply chain is the supplier. Now, the supplier is the organization that provides the raw materials to the manufacturer. So, in the case of a car, the supplier could be a steel company or a rubber company. The third component of the supply chain is the manufacturer. Now, the manufacturer is the organization that takes the raw materials from the supplier and creates the final product. So in the case of a car, the manufacturer would be the company that assembles the car from the different components. The fourth component of the supply chain is the logistics provider. Now, the logistics provider is the organization that is responsible for transporting the goods from one point in the supply chain to another. So, for example, the logistics provider could be a trucking company that transports the finished cars from the manufacturer to the dealership. The fifth component of the supply chain is the distributor. Now, the distributor is the organization that sells the product to the retailer. So, in the case of a car, the distributor could be a car dealership. The sixth component of the supply chain is the retailer. Now, the retailer is the organization that ultimately sells the product to the customer. So, in the case of a car, the retailer would be the car dealership that sells the car to the customer. The seventh component of the supply chain is the customer. Now, obviously, the customer is the person or the entity that buys and uses the product. The eighth component of the supply chain is information technology or IT. Now, IT is an important part of the supply chain because it helps to integrate and automate many of the processes involved in moving the product from the supplier to the customer. For example, IT systems can help track the movement of goods, manage inventory levels, and coordinate the activities of different organizations in the supply chain. The ninth component of the supply chain is the consumers. Now, consumers are the ultimate end users of the products and services that are provided by businesses. They play a critical role in the supply chain because businesses must produce and deliver products that meet the needs and wants of consumers in order to survive and thrive. Understanding consumer behavior, preferences, and trends is therefore essential for businesses, as it allows them to develop and deliver products and services that are in demand. So, these are just some of the main components of the supply chain. Obviously, there are many other elements that could be included in this list. But hopefully, this gives you a good overview of the different players and processes involved in bringing a product to market. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you learned something new. If you did, please be sure to like and share it with your friends. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.